Did you know that there are only 8,760 hours in a year, and 2,080 of those hours are in a full-time 40-hour work year? And yet somehow entrepreneurs will still say, I don't have enough time. Well, you're not wrong, but instead of you focusing on your hours, I want you to focus on how you're spending your minutes. More importantly, how you are robbing yourself of the energy you need to make that good hours work for you instead of against you. Is that your second bottle of wine? Ooh, judgy? But she wasn't wrong. Today, I have 5 more usable hours in my day than I used to, and it's not because I was working more, it's because I stopped losing my power. And so today I'm gonna show you exactly how you can get yours back too. So as many of you guys know, I am a dentist who sold my businesses and retired at the age of 40. And then after I stepped away from being in the chair every single day, I was super excited. I thought I was gonna have all this flexibility, way more control over my schedule, and technically on paper, I did. I really did have more time. But what wasn't making sense was that I started to feel like I was actually more productive when I was in my office than when I retired. And this really bothered me because I thought, how is it even possible? Like, I have nowhere to report to. I am not in the office every single day. I'm not running the clinic. I have way more opportunities to feel more productive. But why was I feeling more productive when I was practicing than when I had more space on my calendar? And so the tension, that really started to mess with me because I had all of these ideas, all these things I wanted to build, and all the next versions of myself I wanted to become. And as I continued to pay attention to this, I was watching the time go by. So weeks was going by, then months. And then I started to have this really uncomfortable, overwhelming sense of inadequacy. And I know you guys feel this in your gut too, right? When you are thinking like, oh my God, I have all this time, but I'm not utilizing it the way that I could. And when you know you're capable of doing more, but you can't quite figure out why you're not executing at that same level. Well, that was me. And I kept asking myself, why am I not producing at the level that I thought I would now that I have way more time? Why do I still feel behind? And I know some of you feel this too. You're like blocking your schedule, like in theory, right? You have your admin days and you think, oh, my time is clear. And then somehow when you look up, all the day has slipped behind you. And at the end of the day, you are wondering what you actually did. And at the end of the week, you feel busy, but you don't really feel that sense of accomplishment, like I did everything. And then you start to question yourself, like, am I lazy? Am I distracted? Why don't I feel like I'm executing at the level I know I'm capable of? And let me be clear, guys, I am not someone who lacks ambition. I'm not someone who lacks vision. So I had to sit with myself and ask a harder question. If technically I had more time, why was I still feeling time poor? And that's when it hit me, because it wasn't the hours. I realized that it was in the minutes. What was happening inside my minutes were literally destroying my days. I was allowing these quiet little time assassins like this guy to sneak in and steal from me. And it wasn't dramatic. It really wasn't obvious, but it definitely was consistently in my hours. And so once I saw it, I could not unsee it. And these were specific categories of minutes that were stealing from my life. And until I labeled them, I couldn't fix them. So let me show you guys the 3 types of minutes that might be stealing from you. All right, so minute number 1, we're gonna call that the leaking minute. Y'all, this is a silent drain. These are the minutes that are slowly draining your energy without you even realizing it. So for me, this looked like all those beautiful little social media rabbit holes I like to fall into, if y'all feel me. This is the TikTok, this is the random scrolling. This is checking your emails 27 times a day. It's all the Slack notifications, the random pop-ups, and those quick tasks that you convince yourself, yeah, I'm being productive. Y'all know the ones, and you tell yourself, like, if I knock this out real quick, I feel accomplished. But what that's actually doing is that's interrupting your real deep work. And one of my other favorite ones were all these little meetings I had to have without agendas. Y'all, this should be illegal. Now let me hit you with something that really woke me up. Research shows that average worker is only productive for 2 hours and 53 minutes in an 8-hour day. So that means roughly 5 hours are lost on distractions and low value interruptions. So when you're really saying like, dang, I feel like I worked all day, but nothing moved, Like, you're not crazy. What's happening is something called context switching. Every time you switch a task, your brain burns cognitive fuel. It has to recalibrate. It has to refocus. It has to reload. And then you're going to add on that digital fatigue, right? It's a real thing that when you get on your phones or all those screens, the constant notifications, the text messaging, the Slack notifications. Now what's happening is that your nervous system is never actually powering down. Now for doctors, this is even worse. There was another study that I saw that it was found that was so powerful. It said that most of the doctors feel like their structured work hours did not match what was expected of them. So we're having this structural mismatch, and now this mismatch is constantly having an issue with time scarcity. And we're feeling like, oh my God, I'm inefficient, but it's not. Your system is overloaded. And when I started to look at my own days, I really had to ask myself, how many times am I randomly switching subjects? So I'm gonna paint another picture. In high school or college, you're in class, right? And you're taking calculus. You have 1 hour for that calculus. But then imagine your teacher all of a sudden starts to say, "Tu parlez-vous français?" Oui. And you're sitting here like, "Je ne comprends pas." Y'all didn't know I knew French, but what I mean by that is every single time, that would be unheard of, right? You're studying calculus, your brain is not thinking about French, and then all of a sudden you're asking your brain to switch over. Well, that was what I was doing every single day to my brain. I would open up emails first because my inbox had like thousands of messages, and then I would jump up and then start researching content ideas. Then I would go back to random Slack messages, then back to my emails. And before 10 o'clock, I was on 5 different subjects. So I was understanding why I was getting tired so early was because I was fragmenting my own focus. And when I started to realize this, I had to shift it. So let me get y'all onto the CEO switch mindset. The first thing that we gotta do is protect our minutes. So I first implemented one 90-minute deep work block. This is no notifications, my phone is in another room, and I have one defined outcome before I even start. So instead of me having 10 different ideas and 12-minute attempts to do those 10 different ideas, I had one focus for 90 minutes, and that execution window alone allowed me to get what I would probably put into like a 2-hour block into 190 minutes. That alone gave me nearly 2 hours back of my day. And it wasn't because I was working more, it was just because my focus was compounding. Leaking minutes are silenced, they don't feel super dramatic, but at the end of the day, you know what happens, you feel that. You can see yourself scrolling and switching and reacting, but that is usually the first place where our power is leaking. All right, so this next one is for all my doctors who feel like they can do all the tasks in the world because no one else can do it better than them. You guys are addicted to this one, and this one is definitely an ego trip. We're gonna call these low value minutes. And because what is happening is you're spending your time doing things you know you shouldn't be doing, but you've convinced yourself that no one else can be responsible for this. And a lot of high achievers get caught here because we're thinking, well, if I don't handle it, it won't get done right. But what's actually you're doing is that you're avoiding leadership. So this is what this looks like. This is answering the same question over and over again. It may look like your admin team coming to you repeatedly for things that you know you've never systemized, so they don't have the answers to it. Or one of my favorites was, I remember I was doing this with a client and I was like, let's write out your planner. And she said, no, I gotta write it on this piece of paper first and then transfer it over. And I was like, girl, this is double work. You are realizing that you are struggling with this because I think what's happening is as doctors, we've really been trained to solve everything. We want to be and all the answers. But what we have to realize, guys, is that when you move into like a CEO mindset, that is not ownership. That is truly micromanaging. And if you stay in micromanaging mode, you're gonna burn out. And burnout is more than just this buzzword of just being tired. This looks like administration overload. This looks like excessive documentation. This looks like emotional fatigue, lack of autonomy. If your brain is being used in these ways, you're not really using your CEO level brain power. And I love this because Dan Martell, one of my favorite, I'm gonna call him, I guess, my mentor, virtual mentor. He says one thing that if you do $10 tasks, you do not make $10 million. period. You are not working harder. You're just working at a lower level. So here's the shift I want you guys to move into. I want you to ask yourself today, is this task a $10 task? Is it a $100 task? Or is it a $1,000 task? If it is not a CEO level task, you need to either create a template, build a system, or assign a person. Those are your only three options. For me, this meant like I had to get honest with myself and my own behavior. Even right now, I'm batching content instead of creating it randomly throughout the week. And so I had to batch my admin task into like a specific window. If I'm doing Gmail, I'm trying to figure out where are other ways for me to respond on a templated response as opposed to rewriting 10 different emails. Those changes gave me about 2 more hours back in my day. And it wasn't because I was moving faster, it was because I was moving much clearer. The clarity was actually requiring me to be more focused. And that's the difference between being busy and being the CEO busy. And my number 3 time assassin is misaligned minutes. Now this one right here, y'all, this is dangerous because it is the illusion of productivity. It is almost like sorcery. You feel busy, you feel productive, you feel exhausted, you feel like you're not moving the needle. And you really aren't, because you're not moving it towards your health, you're not moving it towards impact, you're not moving it towards revenue. It just feels like you are. For me, this looked like working on Canva instead of outsourcing it, or doing something that I know that I need to do, which is like creating this, or consuming strategy instead of executing. Now, I'm gonna call myself out 100 on this, because this one is so much me, right? I will sit there and I will overconsume content in the name of researching, and I will be telling myself, yeah, I'm learning, or I'm refining, or I'm perfecting, but really I'm overthinking. I am trying to make things so flawless because before it sees the day of daylight, it has to be perfect. And I sometimes have to tell myself, girl, literally, you are not Beyonce. Like, the whole world is not going to see this all at once, right? You got a chance to make it get better, and you can actually start to execute it now so that you can start to perfect it. It doesn't have to be perfect now. So this looked like for me, like planning without publishing. And I could have all the templates in the world, all the systems in the world, all the ideas, but if I'm not actually shipping or doing the right thing, what am I doing? And so I've also caught this in my way of like organizing instead of deciding. That may look like color coding, rearranging, cleaning up all the workspaces. Yeah, all of this feels productive because it feels safe. And this is where procrastination hides in productive closing, because it looks responsible, it looks polished, but it is truly avoidance. And it's not that, you're lazy, but it is actually you are avoiding the risk of actually putting something out there. And when I started studying myself, I'm studying my patterns, I realized something. It was my willpower was the strongest in the morning. My genius zone, which is like my time where I'm that girl, y'all, that's at 9 to 2 for me. And so what I realized was I was putting some of my best thinking time to do these miscellaneous tasks, these time assassins that were stealing my energy. So I don't want you to start spending your prime cognitive hours by checking emails or answering Slack or reacting to everybody else's priorities. You are giving your best brain power away. I also because I overthink and I like to study a lot, Kevin Kruse, he was studying billionaires and Olympians and entrepreneurs. And one of the things that he noticed, the common thread, was that these winners were all scheduling their priorities, not their leftovers. So their calendars were reflecting what mattered most. So that's when I had to be like, all right, I gotta create this one-win rule. Before I open any emails, before I check Slack, before I scroll, I had to ask myself, if I can complete one thing today, what would make that day feel like a win? And I'm gonna do that part first. And that shift alone also added 2 to 3 more hours of wasted motion in my life to something, because I stopped wandering. I gave myself a lot more clarity, and that clarity gave me direction. And misaligned minutes feel productive, but the aligned minutes actually were changing my life. Now, let me give you guys some uncomfortable bonus. Like, let me just talk about it, because this is the part that nobody wants to talk about. You cannot reclaim your hours if your brain is under recovered. Time is not just a scheduling problem, it is actually a biological one. According to the Sleep Foundation, 45% of Americans said the lack of sleep affected their daily routine in the past week, which means that half of you guys watching this are cognitively underperforming. half. And I had to face that myself. You know, at the beginning of this video, I'm pouring wine, but I had to stop drinking nightly because I realized it was causing me not to be so great in the next day. I had to stop going to bed all random. Like my bedtime is 9:30, 10 at max. I had to stop decompressing with my wine. And y'all, that means that when I did that, I was able to gain 2 to 3 more usable hours in my morning. Not because I had to wake up super early, but it was because I was waking up a lot clearer. My emotional stability was improving. My decision quality was improving. I had less guesswork and I stopped second guessing myself. You cannot out-discipline sleep deprivation. You just can't. And when you put this all together, like when you start to realize, hey, if I'm gonna protect my deep work time, I'm going to eliminate my low value tasks, I'm gonna align my actions to be more focused, and then adding on like making sure my sleep is good and I'm not digitally fatiguing myself, that alone, all of these things nearly gave me 5 hours per day back of my life. And it wasn't because I was working more, I just stopped leaking my power. And that's the real message. You don't need more time, you just need your minutes to be stronger. And you guys are CEOs, so when you start to structure your minutes like a CEO, you're gonna stop feeling like you're on survival and start to feel like you're in ownership. Now, you may be thinking, okay, Simone, I get it. Where do I even start? What do I fix? How do I even know what is stealing my time? Well, I want you to check out my next video on why my calendar made me a better doctorpreneur. Because in that video, I'm gonna break down exactly how I redesigned my calendar to reflect my priorities instead of my pressure. And if this video hit, like you liked it, drop a comment, let me know. And also if you saw one of your time assassins in here, drop that comment. I wanna know which one is stealing your time. I'd love for you guys to subscribe, share with another doctor who needs it, and start protecting your minutes. Because your future is not built in hours. It's built on how you're spending your minutes. Gotta go. My minutes are calling me. I need my minutes.